We are live.
Welcome to the Undercard Supercast for August 12th. I'm your host, founder, editor, and gleeful quick trip looter of Undercard Superstar, Luke Irwin. Joining me tonight, no one's gotten beaten by Rutgers that badly since Brian Brom was still in college football, Ben Cohn. In my personal Jumanji hell, I get attacked by 30 of his cat Margarine, Earl Montclair. He's now up to a record 15 Ebolas, Josh Hall. Mama says if he's good later, he gets to lick the bowl, Nolan Howe. And lastly, joining us from Saskatoon, the hash brown kid, Taylor Engel. Dateline, Las Vegas, Nevada, the card killer strikes again. Jon Jones out with injury, the bout with Cormier off. Demetrius Johnson and Chris Carriasso step in. Guys, Ben, what do you think? Thoughts, and was DJ and Carriasso an adequate substitute in the main event of the evening, bro?
Well, it's definitely, there's no way you can pretend that it was near a good enough substitute. Obviously, there's no way you can replace that kind of headliner, especially with all the heat that's coming in from the brawl and all that stuff. This was shaping up to be one of the best buy rate cards of the year. There's no way they can replace it, especially not with DJ versus Carriasso, which in itself is not a good title fight. I don't think the bout is off. I think they just moved it, correct?
Oh, no, well, the bout is off for now. It's moved to 182 in January?
I think it's
Third, yeah.
Yeah, the 3rd of January. I think it's 183.
It's 182. Oh, no, maybe.
183, whatever it is. But this is really bad. This was going to be probably the biggest buy rate of the year they had so far. Now it's going to be probably among one of the lower ones. We've seen DJ can't draw for shit. Sucks, but it's true. 177, which already was probably going to draw pretty badly, now does not have that second title fight, so it's really going to draw badly. I mean, I would be surprised if it gets more than 150. 178, I could really barely, I could see it doing 250 if they're lucky, but that's only because they have such a strong undercard. This is awful for the UFC, and it draws out the heat. Now, this fight would have happened pretty much right after the scuffle. It was close. The heat was real. They really don't like each other. You can see it. It's really bad. Really, really bad.
Earl.
Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah, really, this is about just the biggest catastrophic worst-case scenario that this card could have faced, honestly. To lose John and DC on this is really bad. To replace it with DJ and Carriasso is really, really worse. It was already, in my opinion, they were already running the risk of peaking too early when it came to this card for Cormier and Jones. But now, not only does this kind of doom the buy rate for this card, really, really bad. They're even offering refunds on tickets up until the 22nd of the month. Not only is it really dooming this one, but it's also going to put a damper on the actual buy rate when we do get to it in January, because the brawl, that everything else is going to be so far long ago that it's going to be out of everyone's consciousness. It's going to be hard to reheat that and get that at the pitch that it was already. So, yeah, it really sucks, man. It sucks for Jones. It sucks for Cormier. But, I mean, quite honestly, it might be not too bad for Cormier because he might get a chance to heal up from his recent procedure as well, his injury. And, we might be a little better at getting them both at 100%.
Joshua?
There's a problem with that, though. He hasn't had the surgery yet. He put it off so that he could fight Jones here. His LCL is pretty much shot. So unless he's going to go have surgery too, then he's going to be out longer than Jones would be probably for the torn meniscus. So you're going to get Cormier at far less than you would have in the first place,
Ew.
which is not good. I do kind of I'm somewhat amused by the irony of the situation that Jones makes a big joke about he's going to win the fight by stomping an injured knee, and then the fight doesn't happen because he blows out his knee. But the one person that's also factoring into this that is kind of important also is Alexander Gustafsson, who is now ready to go by January and is either going to have to take a fight with somebody like Rumble or wait until who knows how long. If Cormier wins, he's having knee surgery. His title shot is basically indefinitely delayed at this point. And he was the guy who was in line, and he thinks that he should be back in. So it's just bad. And 178 is going to be lucky to sell 150,000 buys with the main event of DJ Khaled.
I mean, there's no need to even say how shitty this is, of course. I mean, it was such a big deal that Fox Sports Radio got hit with a breaking news when it happened. This fight actually had mainstream buzz, the likes of which a UFC fight hasn't had since probably Chael and Anderson too. It was going to be. You could have argued that this would be the closest the UFC would have to another million buy in a long time. Now, yeah, 200 would be phenomenal. 150 is probably more normal, and even that would be high. Personally, I think at this point you just scrap it and you just put it on TV. There's no point of putting this on pay-per-view so you can have another pie-in-the-face, awful ratings, awful buy rate. Chris Carriasso on a pay-per-view main event. Come on, man. And also, as another step, I mean, there wasn't really much you could do. The flexibility of other cards, there wasn't much to be had. A lot of the main events were booked for geography reasons, like Bigfoot in Brazil, or Kung in China, or Rory in Canada, that you couldn't really take one of those off to replace them without jeopardizing the whole entire thing. The only other suitable fight, to me, you could have made was Mousasi and Jacare to take that spot. But now, obviously we're talking about 178, but 177 takes a major hit because now the official co-main to Dillashaw Barao is Betch Correa and Shayna Baszler. That ain't good. So we really, again, that's where maybe you take Woodley and Kim off of the Fight Pass card and you put it as a co-main there. That card, and there's not even like any other suitable fight that could even take its place. Lorenz Larkin and Derek Brunson. I mean, what are you going to do as far as it's created a domino effect for a lot of different things. Just FYI, Cormier was already interviewed and is on record as saying that Jones is ducking him, and also that Jones is a baby who should fight because Cormier himself is going to fight with a partially torn ACL. So Dan's already out in front of this thing and pushing it back at Jones, which I'm sure Jones would have done the same thing to Cormier if Cormier would have pulled out. But so that's what we're looking at right now. Nolan?
This is turning runny chicken shit into some solid, nicely formed chicken shit, I guess. It's not good. 177 and 178 are not looking good. As a result, I mean, in terms of depth, 178 has a lot of solid fights under it that, while good on paper and a lot of relevance and overall stacked card, you need to have a big selling point, and they don't now. So, not really much to say other than that. It's been a really shitty year for the UFC, and I really don't know where to go with it because 177, as you said, has a co-main of Betch Correa and Shayna Baszler, and now a flyweight title fight again headlining a pay-per-view. And Dana should have learned that a flyweight title fight is pretty much guaranteed for 100,000 and under pay-per-view buys, which is not something you want to be doing in the modern UFC. So.
Fun fact I saw about 177 earlier, Nolan. 4 fighters out of the 22 on the card are actually ranked. Total. Really? And 2 of those are Scotty Jorgensen and Betch Correa. That's how deep
and two of the most shallow divisions. So
that's just the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
One guy one guy who's beyond shot, and then a woman who I think has like 7 pro fights.
Yeah, and that's the state of the modern UFC. I kind of wish, that I kind of like seeing these things happen because it you would think it would offer a wake up call, but it's just constant mismanagement. So at this point, it's not even fun to happen. It's just hoping that one of the train cars gets burned and they had to regroup, rebuild, or something. It's whatever. It's modern UFC.
Yeah, you guys, I'm so happy that the UFC is running 78 events this year. That was a really great business choice, and it's really turned out well for them. Not really a lot left to be said. Obviously, it sucks that it was canceled. It would have been the best-selling event of the year. Would have been the best, most intriguing fight of the year. And now you have 2 pretty god-awful cards. One of them, the UFC won't, just because they've already had to scrap 1 card. This in the last. It was supposed to be not this past Saturday, but the one before. Or maybe it was this past Saturday. But anyways, they're not going to scrap 2 cards that were supposed to run in the space of 8 weeks, so they can't even cancel one of these 2 pieces of shit and then just dissolve them into each other. So it leaves that in a really shitty position, and now Alexander Gustafsson, who, is still the guy who's deserving of a title shot, and the guy that's supposed to be getting one is going to get screwed the hardest out of all of this, because there's no way they're going to take this away from Cormier now that they have actual heat on it. So DC keeps his shot. Gustafsson gets screwed, probably has to fight. They won't give him Rumble, but some other, mediocre light heavyweight just to keep his spot in line and to make sure he doesn't fight once in 2 years before a title shot. It's just a really shitty situation for everybody involved.
Dateline Josh Hall's smallpox blanket. In lieu of actually doing any formal awards for a weekend that was kind of up and down, what is kind of quick, maybe a general thought or two from what you saw over the weekend? There was jiu-jitsu, there was some boxing, there was some very small MMA. Julian Lane headlined an Access TV card. It was a strange weekend, is what I'm saying. So, right to left, Taylor, just any sort of thoughts or impressions in lieu of actual formal awards?
All I watched from the combat sports world this weekend was Metamoris, and a really, really entertaining card from top to bottom, honestly. And more finishes than I expected. There's Josh Barnett, who looked, exponentially better than any of us expected him to. But I don't think that I've seen an event run as poorly as that. It was just mind-boggling to see how I generally, people always bitch on Twitter about the UFC's pacing and whatever, and I kind of don't really buy into it, but I've never seen an event with that poor of pacing. You watch a 20-minute match, and then you sit back and you're like, okay, ready for another match here, and then you sit for another 20 minutes learning about how Keaton Cornelius loves to spend his time looking for metal on beaches. Shut the fuck up. I'm not here to learn about their favorite, trinkets that they found on the
juggling lemons on a balance beam.
Well, I don't care. Give me jiu-jitsu. That's what I came to watch, and it wound up being probably an extra hour and a half on that card that was just a complete loss from my otherwise incredibly valuable time.
Nolan, thoughts from over the weekend?
I enjoyed the Metamore perspective. Obviously, TC's criticisms are very relevant, and it was a good show for someone who's not really a big grappling fan. It was fun to watch. And Danny Garcia is, if you ever wanted to kill him, just have Danny Garcia do what he's doing, fighting a bunch of, just completely overmatched guys that does nothing for him. Sure, it gives him a prime TV spot, just absolutely farcical matchups, and that's really not something I want to see out of a guy who's such a really good boxer with a lot of talent. I want to see him fighting upper level guys and not wasting everyone's time by doing what he's done the last 2 fights. And looked impressive against Rod Salka, but doesn't really mean anything when he's Rod Salka.
Does anybody hear that?
Tony Stewart.
It's Marina Shafir's War Wagon. The conductor has left the station. It's now sitting in a pile of weeds off the tracks. It came to a screeching halt after she was KO'd in 37 seconds after calling out Cyborg and said she was going to rule the featherweight division for a long time to come. The 4 horsewomen doing about as well on their steed as Christopher Reeve, and I hope this continues coming up in a UFC 177. Josh Hall.
Yeah, being sick all weekend, I didn't get to catch very much, but Barnett looked amazing, getting a finish in a fight that he wasn't supposed to win in the first place, and I love to see some good old-school catch wrestling being used effectively in modern jiu-jitsu. That made me happy.
Yeah, I kind of thought that if the Barnett one was the big shocker. I thought the Medeiros match was really excellent. I also thought that Chael kind of lasted longer than I had necessarily expected him to, but I mean he did that by playing it like super duper mega safe and really staying out of trouble. But the second he got into anything, he got in the trouble we all kind of figured he was going to get in. But I thought that, like Taylor mentioned, the card up and down was like really, really solid and really entertaining.
Ben, if I may ask you a question, I don't know why you were pulling for Josh Barnett, which as a jiu-jitsu practitioner yourself and various medalists, why would you want someone with that background destroying a jiu-jitsu legend?
I don't like Lister. That's all.
All right.
I never really I never liked him. That's all. Nothing. I mean, this is the guy who was running around saying that Forrest Griffin's going to submit Anderson Silva. So,
Ben, if you have a problem with squat men with beards who likes to drink, this may be your last podcast.
I'm okay with this. I feel like I should go out with a big bang, don't you?
Except it didn't happen, right, Ben?
So then, thoughts from the
I really, really enjoyed the card. I'm glad I paid for it. The one thing I really, really did not like was Jeff Glover and his antics, for lack of a better term. I had people telling me, "Oh, you just, it was fun. Why didn't you enjoy it? It was funny. It was amusing." I didn't pay to see funny and amusing. I paid.
You were very steamed that night when we were watching it.
I was furious. I paid $35 to watch an excellent card. I came in. I missed the first 2 matches. I came in on the 3rd one, and from then on, I was absolutely blown away by the production of the actual fights. It was definitely some bad pacing, but overall, it was exciting. They were fun matches, but Jeff Glover, after 5 minutes of watching him fuck around, it just got old. It got old, and he got tired, and then he couldn't submit him. So, if you're a jiu-jitsu darling like he is, and you're that fucking good that you can toy with him like that, finish him. Do something. Finish him. Give me a reason to pay $35 to see you do donkey guard. All right? Other than that, Josh Barnett submitting Dean Lister, first man to do it in like 17 years. That's insanely impressive. We have he's apparently the heavyweight champion of Metamoris. So cool. I mean, I'd love to see him go against somebody who's currently on top of the heavyweight jiu-jitsu ladder, like Buchecha. That'd be fantastic.
Galvao.
Galvao is a heavyweight, but he's not Barnett's size at all. He's 190 pounds. He's a jiu-jitsu heavyweight. He's actually, the weight he fought at would be medium heavy. He usually doesn't fight at super heavy. He does win the absolutes, obviously, but Buchecha would be a much more intriguing matchup for me. He's got the size, athleticism. He's young. He's powerful, strong. He's got good wrestling. He's an excellent, excellent technician, and he's like that changing of the guard. Like it was Roger Gracie ruling the bigger divisions, now it's Buchecha ruling the bigger divisions. I really want to see something, him come to Metamoris against Josh Barnett. I think it'd be a great match.
Dateline, Newport Beach, California. Bellator headquarters, where Scott Coker at the helm is slowly yet surely turning Bellator into Bellaforce. Hat tip to Josh Hall. Do you like the way, with Coker signing some of his old Strikeforce aces, and also in talks to maybe bring in Gina Carano, and also reuniting with matchmaker Rich Chow, do you like the way that Bellator is progressing with Coker at the helm, even if it means going back in more of a Strikeforce direction, Ben?
I mean, yes and no. I like that he's clean. You know, he's getting rid of the shady shit. He seems like right off the bat they did smart things. And I really don't want to bring this up because I don't want to give him airtime. But releasing Copenhagen immediately was something that I don't know if Rebney would have done. So I'm glad that things like that are being corrected and on the PR front, and cutting out all the excess, and it seems like they're stopping to try and compete with the UFC. So I like that. What I don't want them to do is turn into Strikeforce, in the sense that I don't want to see squash matches. I don't want to see propping up. I mean, I want to see exciting fights, which is what Bellator did consistently produce. I did like the fact that Bellator tried to be a real MMA promotion. They tried to make the best fights possible, the most competitive fights possible. They would hire young talent, like all the Dagestanis and people from Russia and Dagestan. They got all those guys. They got a lot of young and great talent. I want them to keep that. I want them to keep doing that. I want them to keep making competitive fights. I don't want to see. I mean, I understand why I'd want to see it. I don't want to see fights like Nick Diaz versus Cyborg. It's not a competitive fight. Nick Diaz was always going to win that fight. At least he was supposed to always win that fight. I want to see title fights that mean something. I want them to continue trying to make the best fights possible in a competitive fashion. Of
You're
course,
talking about Bellator. You do realize that, right?
Yes.
It's like had King Mo fight for the light heavyweight title like 11 times, despite losing 7 of them.
Rebney, you know, that was the problem with Rebney. They were trying to compete with the UFC, so they needed.
You're getting Joe Warren with a goddamn belt, whether you like it or not, and we'll keep plugging him in until we get it.
Listen, but they were trying to compete with the UFC in any way they could, and trying to get as many buys as they could. But they had guys like Pat Kern and Pitbull and Strauss and Alvarez, Chandler, and they had, obviously, Shabalala didn't turn out to be that great, but he was on a tear. They tried to make as good the fights as good as possible and as competitive as possible for the most part. Obviously, once they tried to compete, yeah, but I want to see that. I don't want it to go to the Strikeforce squash matches. For the most part. That's.
Oh.
So, I myself was a little bit late on jumping on the Strikeforce war wagon, and it's kind of haunted my MMA fandom a little bit, that I didn't get really into it and kind of appreciate it for what it was until it was like towards the end. But I mean, with that being said, if Coker can kind of recreate the magic that he had in Strikeforce with Bellator, with a network deal and with, what I would suppose would be a continued strong relationship with the UFC, so on and so forth, just because Coker kind of was always that dude that had a decent relationship with them and everything else. I think that, it's going to be a really, really good thing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of stuff he comes up with. It's going to be good for all parties involved, for Coker himself, for the fighters, for the network, for the company, for everything, and I'm just looking forward to what he's got up his sleeve.
What do you guys think about him doing away with the tournament format?
I'm fine with it. It had gotten so polluted by the end, it was farcical when they were so ingrained in that is our format, that then they start doing ridiculous things because it's not working the way they want it to, and that turned into just atrocious bookings and Attila Vey being injured and not injured and basically just put on the shelf so they can create a title for King Mo. Everything making this more like Strikeforce is great by me. And adding the Strikeforce matchmaker, I enjoyed the Strikeforce matchmaking. You would get legitimately big fights, and then you would get legitimately fun fights. And I'm very okay with a mix of the two, especially for the second-tier organization. Having a couple of fights here and there that are guaranteed to just end in a crazy finish is not a bad thing for the sport, for the fans, or for the company. So I like it. I like it at all.
I make no ifs, ands, or buts or apologies. I was a gigantic Strikeforce fan. I loved it. It was a wonderful alternative. Today, it's needed more than ever. Now that the UFC continues to kick themselves in their own taint repeatedly. And as far as the tournament format, you either had to do one thing. You either had to commit to it 100% with no breaking from the variants whatsoever, or you needed to not do it at all. You couldn't just, you couldn't just go with the tournament format when it was convenient for you, and then when something broke your way that you didn't like Emmanuel Newton winning the title, try to just remedy it, or Daniel Strauss beating Pat Curran. You can't just go back and forth on what use it when you want to. You either had to commit to it 100% or 0%. Coker's doing it 0%. He's already making smart moves. He's bringing in guys with a good combination of skill and entertainment and doing the best with what he has on the roster. When you have a guy like Doug Marshall on the roster, yes, you need to pair him up with Melvin Manhoef. That's the best possible decision you can possibly make with what you have. It's to make a pro wrestling analogy, it's like Paul Heyman back in ECW, taking what kind of limited skill set guys he had, but booking them and making it so that they absolutely were in the best position to shine and make a name for themselves and be entertaining.
By flying off the scaffolding.
You have New Jack, you do what you goddamn do with New Jack. He knows 3 wrestling moves, and he's a legitimate felon and crazy person. As Mick Foley says, he can't jump high, so he'll jump from high places. I love Scott Coker, and he doesn't burn bridges. He's universally respected. The Diaz brothers love him. He can spot talent, and like I said, now more than ever with the UFC just continuing to shoot themselves in the foot, it's really needed. Let's not forget, they put together the goddamn heavyweight Grand Prix. They did a lot of revolutionary stuff. They introduced women's divisions at a time when the UFC wouldn't even think about it. They did a lot of really, really, really cool stuff, and if Coker can maintain legitimacy while still being that alternative for fans and disillusioned fighters, too, that's another big one. He created kind of a safe haven a la the Oakland Raiders in the 70s who didn't want to do things the corporate or the UFC way, wanted more freedom. He gladly took them in on his island of misfit toys. So I'm looking forward to it extremely. They're already booking fun-looking cards, and yes, I'm excited. Nolan.
I didn't really agree with Ben's tangent on the Strikeforce squash matchmaking. There's something to be said for doing the best you can outside of the UFC with the talent you have, and I think Scott Coker did absolutely that. Yeah, not all the fights were 100% competitive, by the books matchmaking, sure, but you kind of need that kind of exposure outside of the UFC, and to say that the UFC every title fight has been competitive is, especially looking at this modern day and age, yeah. Regardless, I'm 100% for the Bellaforce, the style. Dropping the tournament format's a good move. He's making all the right PR moves, as everyone mentioned. Drawing talent. Scott Coker has an eye for talent. He has an eye for picking up homegrown people that he can develop and making the Bellator stars. He has the Bellator stars that are already there, and he can bring in any, as Luke said, disillusioned fighters. So, it's a great move. It's going to be a good alternative product. I 100% love the way Scott Coker's going about things there.
Yeah, I basically just agree with Luke there. Like, I don't like. I'm just way too shallow of a person. I don't like Scott Coker just because he looks like a fucking toad, and seeing him infuriates me. But he is a way better business mind than Dana White could ever dream of being. He knows what he's doing. He has a way better eye for talent. He has a way better eye for matchmaking, I think. Like Luke said, he puts together, he's never going to have the best fighters, but he's always going to give them the best matches. And so I look forward to seeing that with some of the guys in Bellator. I think he could really do some good work with them. And, hopefully when, guys like Ben Askren are out of their ONE FC contract hell, they can come back to Bellator because, Lord knows that Askren's never going to sign with the UFC. So they can pick up some of those guys, like Luke was saying, like Manhoof and Doug Marshall, and then what's the co-main on that card? Brian Rogers and James Irvin. James Irvin isn't the top 10 or 15 or 50 fighter in his weight class anymore, but he's still damn entertaining. And so he's just doing the best with what he's got, and I look forward to seeing him, reestablish the Bellator brand. Hat tip to Darren Ravel, and hopefully, the Bellator can, really get back to what they should be as a real competitor to the UFC.
There is something to be said, too, for using guys like James Irvin to, again, wrestling analogy, I'm sorry, put over other guys. Brian Rogers beats him. He beats a UFC main eventer and kind of reestablishes himself as a dangerous fighter. Like I said, I just really, 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 really enjoy the guy. Dateline Bangor, Maine, for some reason, where we have a by God UFC card this Saturday. Live from Fox Sports 1, it's Ryan Bader's Iron Pin against Oven St. Preux. So let's run down the card real quick, if we may. We will go right to left on our picks, so Taylor doesn't get left in the dust again. And we'll go start at the bottom here, the preliminary card on Fox Sports 2. Give me a name for your winner, and if you want to throw in a method of victory, I'll allow it. In the bantamweight division, Frankie Sands against Nolan Tickman. We'll go right to left.
I have no idea who these people are. Pac-Man.
Nolan.
No, Frankie Sands then. Frankie. I picked the guy that isn't Nolan.
Frankie Sands.
Yep. Frankie Sands.
Frankie Sands decision.
Sands. Sorry I didn't pronounce the fucking E. Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna go with what I hope his Halloween costume is gonna be this year, which is Nolan Tickman.
Sands decision.
In the middleweight division, Violent Sam Alvey against Tom Kong Watson.
Are we still going right to left, or are we snaking?
No, we'll go right to left. We'll keep on.
Watson knockout first round, sure.
Go Alvey.
Going Alvey in what will be the fight of the night and probably the weekend.
Watson, unanimous decision.
I'm going Alvey early submission.
Watson decision as well.
In the women's bantamweight division, Lauren Murphy takes on Sarah McMahon.
Yeah, the only mismatches are in Strikeforce. McMahon, unanimous decision.
McMahon, TKO, second round.
McMahon, 30-25.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, McMahon, 30-27 across the board.
McMahon sub 1.
McMahon by decision, but Murphy's 8-0, so she's a can.
That's nice. I haven't lost either.
You did not win the bantamweight title.
11-1.
In the flyweight division, and bafflingly not on Fox Sports 1, Hussier Formiga against Zach Makovsky.
Makovsky, TKO, second round.
Makovsky decision.
Like Makovsky here in the next title challenger.
Makovsky decision.
Yeah, Makovsky dominant UD.
Gotta go fun size decision.
On the main card in the featherweight division, Robbie Peralta takes on Thiago Tavares.
Tavares, UD.
Tavares, UD.
Well, I'm going with Tavares myself.
Yep. Same.
Same.
Yep. Tavares decision.
In the heavyweight division, Sean Jordan takes on 1940s noir private detective Jack May.
I really hate being first because I don't know how the best method.
You don't like being last. You don't like being.
I don't like being first for picks because I can't be a contrarian this way. Is what I was saying, Luke Irwin. I will take Jack May by knockout.
You don't like being Canadian. You don't want to be American.
I'm sexually confused. Okay.
That's fair. That's understandable. I support you.
Thank you.
Sean Jordan KO round 1.
Sean Jordan KO.
Yeah, Jordan first round KO.
Jordan round 1 KO backflip.
Don't screw this up, Ben.
Same as Tom.
Hey!
You can still do it.
I can still do it.
In the welterweight division, Alan Jouban and Seth Basinski.
Basinski, UD.
Jouban's gonna be tough, but I'll take Basinski.
I'm going Basinski, but I like Jouban in the future.
I think Basinski catches him with a guillotine in the second.
I'm going to take Basinski with a unanimous decision, but it's going to be a lot more competitive and exciting than one might think.
Basinski's really hasn't looked good in the past couple of fights. Japan by KO, round 2.
Dang.
In the middleweight division, Brad Tavares and Tim Boesch.
Brad Tavares, wide UD.
Tim Boesch likes using metal detectors too, so there's an interesting fact. I guess I'll go Brad Tavares by a decision.
Boats, hashtag
Boats.
made wrong. Tim Boats via main strength.
Tavares by a lopsided and not very entertaining decision.
You can't fucking say anything.
Tavares by disappointing the main crowd very badly.
Tavares beats Tim Boats easily. These both have nothing for Tavares. Tim Boats might, but
Hurricane Tavares is gonna suck up Tim Boats, and
It's pronounced team. Pronounced.
I really want Tim Boats.
Montclair. Did I just hear something about a hurricane?
Weird Tim Yankovic.
Weird Al Yankovic. He needs to walk out to Weird Al Yankovic.
Tim Boots. In the lightweight division, in co-main event of the evening, Gray Maynard takes on Ross Pearson.
You know, I never would have said this like 3 years ago when Gray Maynard was busy beating Frankie Edgar and Ross Pearson lost to Cole Miller. But Ross Pearson knockout.
yeah, Ross Pearson's volume striking should be enough here for a second round TKO.
I don't like Gray's chin anymore, so I'm going to go with Ross Pearson by a finish, and probably the KO variety.
I think Gray wrestles enough to survive barely despite getting nearly knocked out approximately 7 times. Pearson 30-26.
Yeah, this is bad, and Pearson's gonna Donkey Kong him in the second.
I believe in Maynard. Unanimous decision.
And in the main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division, Oven St. Preux takes on clutch fighter Ryan Bader.
Are we even doing this, really? We all know who's gonna win. Fuck.
Well, I don't know. It depends. Is there supposed to be any like tropical storms coming up the East Coast? Like, are there going to be some severe winds coming up?
Let me check Noah.
Ask Tim Boats.
Tim Boots has his ear to the ground. Tom Bosch.
Wow, this is a fight. I'll take Bader by decision, I guess. This is the worst headliner ever. Well, one of them die if it goes 5 rounds?
5 rounds.
One of them might die. You guys, this could be our first UFC death.
Why? Bader has always shown great cardio.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Ben. Sorry if I offended you.
Bastard. Fucking disparage Bader, you bitch.
Ben, it's not your turn, okay? All right.
But you're not a person.
It's not your turn. It's my turn.
All
right.
You midget.
All right. I can't really envision a way OSP wins this, unless Bader does Bader things. And you know what? We'll say Bader does Bader things and OSP wins somehow. I'll go OSP second round knockout. Hell.
OSP by guillotine. Bader tries to charge in like a fucking caveman and gets his neck squeezed for the.
OSP via Von Flue choke again.
That'd be the best. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna say that I've got OSP by a third round Baterific KO.
Yeah, Bader's looked absolutely fantastic.
Against Anthony Parash.
He straight up looks fantastic against Beijao. He looked fantastic against Parash. He looked good up against until the knockout by.
He looked terrific against Machida. I hope we see that one again.
Aside from
he looked fantastic against Parash. Yeah, so did my deceased grandfather. He really hung in.
Yeah, I wasn't aware you
really gave it a hell of a fight during the Tito Ortiz matchup.
Which Luke still believes was a fixed fight for some reason.
Ben, how dare you insinuate that I ever doubted the credibility of major combat sports?
Did one of these guys lose to 2011 Tito Ortiz?
Bader's a better wrestler. His striking has looked very good recently.
He's not a bad boxer by any means.
No, he's not. His kicking game has been coming along nicely. His cardio has shown to be better than St. Preux, and St. Preux has been taken down by Gegard Mousasi, noted wrestler Gegard Mousasi.
Yeah, Liu Kang's brother was
I don't understand why everyone's so high on OSP. His best win is over fucking Ryan Jimmo by injury TKO.
Ben, it's not that we're high on OSP.
it's that Ryan Jimmo's indestructible, and if he could do that to Ryan Jimmo,
along with Jimmy Mann.
I don't know, dude. Antoine Britt was a stud.
Yeah, Cody Donovan.
He beat future light heavyweight champ Nikita Krylov. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fucking wins there, and Nikita Krylov and Cody Donovan.
Bloody elbow #1 prospect Jean Vellante is also on his episode there.
Bader's gonna take this. I don't see
how murderous row.
He's going to win, and he's gonna win handily. Late TKO.
Okay.
And that will do it for our show today. Wrapping up at 10 o'clock on the dot. Check back with us next Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where an inconsolable Ben Cohn tries to hide in his closet while we all relentlessly make fun of him for another life, soul-crushing defeat. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 7 days.
Fight everyone, fight.